The UFC Sphere card is disappointing, okay? And I don't think, to be honest, it actually is kind of surprising how disappointing the card is. It's not the worst card in the world, but it's a regular pay-per-view. It's actually kind of a mid-pay-per-view, to be honest. This is the card, but these aren't the exact placements, fight placements. But we have Ode Osbourne and Ronaldo Rodriguez on the main card. Ronaldo Rodriguez has one fight in his UFC career. Ode Osbourne is just like a random selection. And we knew that there was a chance that O'Malley and Merab would be on here, but we were hyped for Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. Okay, the UFC's been hyping up the Sphere card as a once-in-a-lifetime thing. No other sports promotion or sports league is ever going to pull this off again. This is a one-time thing, right? The production is going to be on another level. And I'm still looking forward to seeing what it's like. I'm still looking forward to that. But the card that we have today, UFC 304, is better than this. Like the main card. We have Aspinall versus Blades, legit title fight. We have Leon Edwards versus Bilal. Maybe not as good as O'Malley versus Merab, but I mean, it's better than Grasso and Shevchenko. And we have other good fights on it as well, like Pimblett, Green, Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze, Manel Kape, Muhammad Makayev, and a bunch of other like really exciting prospects. Whereas after the big three fights, this really falls off a cliff. And Ortega and Diego Lopez is a good fight, don't get me wrong. But I just think that this card needed like two other big fights. One being Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway, which is a bigger fight than Sean O'Malley and Merab because, again, you're doing a once-in-a-lifetime thing at the Sphere. It's in Las Vegas, fight capital city of the world. Why not have Max Holloway, who's got so much hype right now coming off of that epic viral KO at UFC 300, fight Ilia Topuria, who's making noise? And I thought it was just a no-brainer to have it on the same card as Sean O'Malley, who has a little bit of a back and forth with Ilia Topuria. It was a no-brainer in most of our eyes that they were going to have both of them on the same card. O'Malley and Topuria at the press conference. Maybe if both of them won, you would set up a super fight, get them to talk about each other's performances, and get them to have a stare down. Okay? But we're not getting that. We get O'Malley versus Merab, which is a good fight. But Ortega and Diego Lopez has been made before. And don't get me wrong, it's a sick fight. And in ways, it's more interesting now that we've seen Diego Lopez fight recently, and we kind of know that his gas tank isn't great. It's interesting. But when a fight has been made twice in the span of like a month, you can't get as hyped as you were the first time. And even the first time they made this fight, it's a good fight. It's a great fight. But it's not like Strickland versus Whitaker. You know what I mean? Like, it's an amazing fight. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the biggest name fight. And Alexa Grasso-Shevchenko is a great fight, but I mean, we've seen it twice before. Like, I think that this really needed Topuria versus Max. And another thing that kind of frustrates me about that is because, listen, the UFC didn't want to put O'Malley at altitude with Merab, 100%. And they've got this Salt Lake City card coming up in September. I also don't want to see Ilia and Max at altitude because the allure to that fight is the skills. These are like the two most skilled fighters on the planet right now. Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria. Why throw some other weird element into the mix like altitude where when most fighters are fighting in Salt Lake City, they look like a shadow of themselves, right? A shell of themselves. They gas out after a round. They look lethargic. There aren't that many finishes either. Why would you want both of those fighters to not perform at their absolute best to put on what might be the most skilled fight we've ever seen? They're going to have a good fight, but at altitude, I can't imagine it's going to be better than not at altitude. And again, this fear, two big title fights. You could have had 3 big title fights. And then Ode Osbourne on the main card. Ignacio Bahamondes, Emanuel Torres is awesome. Okay? Some of these other fights are good, but Zellibur versus Esteban Ribovic, that's a good fight. But there's just no big name value. There's nothing here that really hypes people up that much. I think UFC 298 was better than this card, which was the Volkanovski-Topuria card. UFC 299 was better than this card, which was the O'Malley card, stacked. Okay? UFC 300 was better than this card. I mean, that's to be expected. I don't expect the Sphere card to be on UFC 300's level. But UFC 303 International Fight Week is better than this card. UFC 304 is better than this card. I mean, we may have to look at UFC 305, but I think Usyk versus Kai Kara-France is a more epic fight than the co-main event we have here. I forget what the other fights are. We have Gamrot on there, but overall, 305 may even have like better fights overall. And I just think that for the Sphere card, the fans wanted one of the best pay-per-views of the year, like one of the top 5. It's not in the top 5. So it's just a little bit strange. I mean, I expected them to not only add something like Ortega and Lopez, but to not throw off Fluffy Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. They got rid of that fight, which was like the 4th best fight. It's a better fight than Grasso-Shevchenko. We've seen that before. That was the 4th best fight, and they got rid of it, which is, again, just kind of shocking. They put it on an Apex card, which doesn't make any sense. And again, it's like the ticket prices are probably astronomically high. I just think you got to give the fans something crazy. I mean, you don't have to give us something that we've never seen before. It doesn't even need to be on the level of UFC 299 or UFC 300 or UFC 303. It just needs to be on par with the card that we at least have this weekend or UFC 298. I mean, there are other regular pay-per-view cards that are better than this. Now, you're probably wondering, why are all of a sudden are they not stacking an O'Malley card to the brim? Well, maybe, you know, the idea of them stacking an O'Malley card is that he's not that big of a star in his own. So you want him to main event a big card, but you want other fighters to help him sell the card, okay? The reason why they're not doing that is because maybe they think just the production alone and the whole once-in-a-lifetime thing and the whole first sporting event at the Sphere alone is going to help O'Malley sell, and that they think that is going to bring in a lot of eyes, and they don't really need to stack the card, that this whole mystery of how a sporting event at the Sphere card will play out will be the thing that draws eyes in. And so maybe they think, well, why not prioritize future pay-per-view events? Why put everything on this card? Why not try to, you know, prioritize other cards in the future? Because I think that the production kind of takes the place of a stacked card. Maybe that's what they're thinking. But still, I just think the fans really wanted at least 5 like big name fights on the main card. Again, when I say big names, I don't mean we need a heavyweight title fight. We need 5 title fights. I just mean something on the level of Ortega Lopez, maybe an Oliveira fight, right? Maybe we do a Fluffy Hernandez Michel Pereira fight. They got rid of it. Don't know why. So it is disappointing. It's just a mediocre pay-per-view, to be honest. Like, Ode Osborne fight on the main card is just, that's just unacceptable. But the UFC, they're probably like, you know, these suckers tune in all the time, so who cares? It is what it is. Emanuel Torres, Ignacio Bahamondes, I wanted that. I wanted Yair on this card too, but I guess he might be injured. Who knows? Maybe they wanted Yair for a future event. You never know. I wanted Barbosa on here maybe. I mean, there were other... Barbosa, I think, is going to retire, actually. So, I don't know. There were just other fights you could have put on here as well. Of course, you want to have a lot of Mexicans for Mexican Independence Day. But I think what I've been seeing is a lot of people are saying, listen, you know, the Mexican fans are going to watch Canelo instead. Because there are a lot of hardcore fans, hardcore MMA fans that are from Mexico that are probably looking at this card and saying, I kind of wanted bigger name value. So, yeah, disappointing card. Not the worst card. It's just a mediocre pay-per-view. Like, it's just this is like the worst a pay-per-view could get before you really start complaining in general. But the fact that it's for the Sphere, okay, like, we'll complain a little bit. Like, for example, this is on par with the UFC Boston card that O'Malley headlined with Aljo. That's fine. That's fine. It's not the worst pay-per-view, but for the Sphere, we were thinking, holy shit, like, the UFC is going to go all out. But I guess they're focusing more on the production, and they don't really want to distract people with good fights. Like, well, I don't understand. I don't get it. O'Malley versus Merab is a great fight. It's an excellent fight, but it's not a huge fight, okay? It's not a huge fight yet. Ilya and Max was a bigger fight, a much bigger fight. That should have been the headliner. And O'Malley should have still been on the card as a co-main event. And who knows what you're going to do with the Salt Lake City card, but fuck it, do a BMF title fight. People wanted to see the Sphere. The expectations for the Sphere card were up here. The expectations for Salt Lake City, we don't have any. Right? So that's the difference. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.